coast. I think it's about to pop up. There we go. So you can see it here, some lightning there in and around the eye wall. Let me see if we can get a different radar loop. I thought I had punched something else up here. Hold on, let's see. Okay, yeah, so this is it. Let's take a closer look here at the eye wall and what has taken shape. So here is Charleston here, flash flood warning in effect there. We've seen intermittent rain, but this right here is going to be the most intense part of the storm. This is where these 85-mile-an-hour winds are. That's going to be coming ashore, and I suspect that this actually wraps all the way around. It's just that the radar can't see past about this point right here because the radar is actually located off Interstate 95 there, right over the South Carolina state line. So I suspect this is filled in, so we will get the front part of this eye, and then the back edge probably won't be as strong, but still necessarily, you know, another section of the eye wall coming ashore. It does look like the eye would be centered somewhat right in here, and that is going to track just to the north of Charleston, maybe just to the north of the Mount Pleasant area there in South Carolina in terms of the most intense wind. But if that's the case, that brings that eye wall right over Charleston, and it does not bring the eye over Charleston, which means Charleston experiences the eye wall for longer. So let's talk about what is going to happen through the day today in terms of this storm and what's going on. Let me see, let me actually pull up this graphic, the cone here. So here's what we've got. This is the track. It's Category 1 hurricane now. This is the 8 a.m. advisory here. Winds of about 85 miles an hour. Pressure down to 984. So this thing had a really low pressure when it came into Fort Myers in Florida. Now it is just a little north of St. Simons if you were to draw a line off the coast there. Now moving inland closer to the Charleston area. It is going to make landfall as a Category 1 hurricane later tonight and then move inland a weekend down to a tropical storm before becoming a tropical depression as it crosses into North Carolina and Virginia. We do have tropical storm warnings in effect for a majority of the Carolinas. This is going to be from Kill Devil Hills over towards Greensboro. Let's see if I can get some cities on here. Greensboro, Charlotte, Augusta, all the way down to Augusta, Georgia. Still down into the Georgia counties here. Going to be seeing some wind and are seeing some wind today. A hurricane warning from Hilton Head Island up through Charleston, Myrtle Beach. It stops there county-wise. Actually just a little bit into North Carolina now, that first county inland there. But Myrtle Beach, Georgetown, Charleston, Beaufort, Savannah, Edisto Island, James Island, Isle of Palms, the entire South Carolina coast is included in that hurricane warning. Already seeing tropical storm force conditions there as of now. So let's see how this looks on the models. Fairly good agreement. I mean, I can honestly just play this one forward, and this is going to happen today. Rain into South and North Carolina, already seeing that. There's the center of the storm at 7 p.m., weakening to tropical storm, moving out. So this is a Friday event for the eastern half of the Carolinas. This is going to be a Saturday early morning. It's going to last through Saturday early morning there for the western half of the Carolinas and on up into Virginia. And then the center of the storm is going to move up into the mountains. And what happens when we get this kind of situation, when you get a low pressure system falling apart, or a tropical system falling apart right here, it rains itself out because it's run into the mountains and it can't go any further. So likely looking at some flooding situations going on up in Virginia and in North Carolina. What else we have here? So, I mean, I guess, you know, the thing with this storm now is it's a lot of nowcasting as opposed to forecasting, because we've got rain, I mean, from almost the Richmond area now down to Georgia. So let's go through this state by state, starting off in Virginia. So eastern shore almost to the Maryland state line now, running into some rain. Here, the first band of it just moved through Norfolk, Virginia Beach. That's now moving up 64 towards Richmond. So raining now in Petersburg, moving into Chesterfield County there, just south of Richmond. This band will move through Richmond, eventually towards Charlottesville here over the next few hours, and then eventually towards D.C. They will be getting in on some of the rain action as well. And let's move south of the Virginia state line into North Carolina here, and it is a wet morning across a large part of the Tar Heel state, starting from the northern end of the Outer Banks all the way through. Squally weather. Haven't seen any tornado warnings as of yet, which is a little surprising because this side of the storm is when we would see that severe weather potential. A lull right now in Wilmington as you get over towards Fayetteville as well, beginning to get into a lull. The first band of rain has just come through the Charlotte area, same with Greensboro. That's moving over towards Boone and eventually potentially towards the Tennessee state line. And that's the deal with North Carolina right now. There is more rain coming on on shore. You can see this over the ocean. Notice how we get some of these oranges and reds in here. That's where the severe weather potential could be, so maybe a few water spouts or tornadoes being able to move on shore. Then we move down to South Carolina. And really, along Interstate 77 and to the south is where the rain is as of now. That continues to push towards the east. So Greenville, you probably got an hour or two before you see rain in your area. Some steadier rain beginning to move into Orangeburg now. Columbia's seen on and off rain. That's going to get a bit steadier as this band that's over towards the Florence area continues to push in. Charleston actually in a lull, but the eye wall right here, this is the eye wall, is going to begin to come ashore in the next little bit, and this is where the strongest winds are. Something that's interesting with this storm, I saw the hurricane hunters talking about this after they flew through the storm. This was a few days ago, right before it made landfall in Florida, but it's got a lot of lightning in the eye wall, which is a little atypical for hurricanes. I'm not exactly sure why this hurricane has a lot of lightning, whereas others don't, but it's interesting to note that this one does. And it's worth looking into to see why that is, and we'll be doing that in the days ahead. But you can see the lightning here. That would be just south of Charleston. So a very strong thunderstorm essentially is moving into Charleston, and you know, it already in a flash flood warning there. If I drill this down in, you'll see this light up with Charleston County and Berkeley County, clipping Berkeley County there, right along the Wando River. That's the county line. It's going to run until noon, but I suspect we will see that be extended because Charleston is extremely flood susceptible. If you've ever been to Charleston, obviously the Battery is right there in the harbor, and that is able to be flooded fairly easily without a storm. You get a strong wind on shore, and that you get water coming over the seawall, no problem. So the areas that are going to see the heaviest part of the storm are going to be Charleston, Wando, Onondaga, there in Charleston County. As you get up towards Georgetown, it looks like the eye wall will begin to not be as strong. McLennanville will get in on the action. You've got Isle of Palms in here, Folly Beach. There's North Charleston, Johns Island. This is going to be the area that sees the most intense part of the storm. This is going to go right through Charleston, what you know is downtown Charleston, up towards North Charleston, towards the airport. The airport is right here at the intersection of 26 and 526. Obviously, you've got Route 17 that runs up the coast there. That is going to feel the brunt of the storm. Isle of Palms, Folly Beach, as you get up towards the islands. I believe once you get up to the islands up here, you're not actually running into anybody living on those islands. I believe you have to get there by boat to get there. And the names of them escape me at the moment, but I believe there's nobody who lives on the islands here. It's populated here. So this is going to be the most intense part of the storm. Let me see if we have the Charleston radar loaded in here, which we don't, but I can fix that in just a second. And we can get some of the velocity values in here, and we can see some of the strongest winds in the storm. And this, again, is going to be moving into the Charleston area. So what I'm going to do is swap out one of our radars and replace it with the Charleston radar. And while I'm doing that, it's going to take a second for it to update, but we will be able to look and see what's going on in the moment. So I just made that switch. So here in a few minutes, we will see higher resolution data, because what's happening right now is we're looking at this from the Jacksonville, Florida radar site, which is why you're getting that cutoff right there, because we've got these individual radars located around the United States. So what I'm doing is drilling this down to a single radar site, and then it's picking the closest one, and to the closest one to the center of the map right now is that Jacksonville site. But I just made that switch to Charleston, so hopefully we'll begin getting data from Charleston here in the next few minutes, and we can get a closer look at what's going on right now. But you can see the satellite on this thing. I mean, let's just look how massive the cloud deck is. What happened was the storm ran into a front that already had clouds with it, and it just kind of became one. So you've got the core of the storm down here, and you've got this giant fan out into the Atlantic. So by technicality, the clouds that you're seeing in Pennsylvania that's covering West Virginia, that is technically part of the hurricane. It's just kind of become one big thing, and you've seen the rain shield now, as we were just talking about, making its way towards Richmond, Virginia. That is several hundred miles away from the center of the storm. You can see that there. So rain beginning to fill in that cloud deck there, moving into the DC area, moving into the Virginia mountains. And as I mentioned, some concern there for the Virginia mountains with the flooding potential as the storm moves towards the north and just kind of lets go of all the water that it has up there. So Somebody's saying we already lost power and the winds aren't even that strong yet. Well, if you wouldn't mind leaving a comment where you're watching from, we'd like to know so we can see what's going on in these different areas. Obviously, with the storm coming ashore, we do have a storm surge threat. Let me see if I can pop that map up. I know I've got it in here. I've just got to find it. Here we go. We are looking at the possibility of 4 to 6 feet of storm surge for part of the South Carolina coast here, 3 to 5 up to the Wilmington area, and then 2 to 4 up into the Outer Banks. Also, still the possibility of 3 to 5 feet down along the Georgia coast, as the storm is located just to the east of Brunswick, to the east of St. Simon. So we're still getting that wind into the Georgia coast. Actually, it's probably more like that right now. It's probably more of a southeast wind, so it's piling that water up into the coastline there. So that's the lay of the land in terms of the storm surge. What's going on right now? Let's see if we've got the Charleston radar popped in here yet, and we will be able to see. So that we do. No, wait, hold on. Not yet. It's coming. That was the national radar you just saw there. But again, I just loaded in the Charleston radar, so it'll be showing up here in just a minute. And essentially, what we're looking at is the eye wall coming ashore now. You look up here into Myrtle Beach, you look into Charleston, and you see this moving on shore, and that is going to be the most intense part of the storm. That is the part of the storm that you can get those 85-mile-an-hour winds through, and we will be seeing that through the afternoon hours as we look for the storm to make landfall. Probably later this afternoon, after 2 o'clock or so, maybe 3 or 4 o'clock before all is said and done, and that is the plan for the day ahead. So. Let's see, nope, still no Charleston radar yet. We're hoping to get that in here in just a moment. But there we go. That is the current radar in the looks of things. Let's check out the wind gusts we've got right now in the Carolinas. Anywhere you see this purplish color, that's is where you're going to get 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts. So that's what we're seeing there in Charleston, Hilton Head, close to that in Orangeburg. You can see the wind gusts making their way towards Columbia, Charlottesville, or Charlotte itself not checking in, Georgetown also not checking in at the moment. But there's the center of the storm there as this comes ashore. This will be an interesting map to watch to see how high they get. But notice, what I want you to notice is, say up in Norfolk, Virginia, this is 300 miles away from the center of the storm. You are still seeing borderline tropical storm wind gusts. In fact, the wind's not all that much stronger in Charleston right now than it is in Norfolk, Virginia. That's how big this wind field is with the storm, and that's why here in central Georgia, our eastern counties, say Hancock, Washington, Johnson, Treutlen, Montgomery County, that's why there's a wind advisory in effect today, because we are seeing those wind gust potential through the day today across central Georgia of upwards of 40 miles an hour as the storm comes ashore. So that is the lay of the land there in terms of the wind gust. Let's see if we can look at some of those wind gusts with the Charleston radar. No, not yet. Let's see. Yeah, so it's got the Charleston radar selected, but I can't see anything in it yet. So hopefully we're able to get that here in just a moment. It might take, it's taking a little longer than I thought it was going to take, but we're hoping to get that here in just a second. But there is what's going on right now. So it's a massive storm. If we take a look at the history on this storm, you know, it did a number to Southwest Florida, to put it mildly. This is the track that it took. We've been talking about this for a week now, and it's interesting to look at the track because, if we started right here with an invest and it made its way, it brushed the Venezuelan coast, went by Aruba, started to get, become a tropical depression right about here, became a tropical storm fairly quickly, became a hurricane south of Cuba, made landfall as a major hurricane in Cuba as a Cat 3. And then it's interesting, it wobbled around there in the Gulf of Mexico. If I drill this down a bit more, you'll see how it wobbled, and this is what happens when you get a strengthening storm. Our cone draws a straight line in terms of the forecast, but it does this. It wobbles back and forth just like that. And it's those wobbles that make a big difference in the eventual landfall spot, because say if that wobble hadn't happened, or this wobble, or half of these wobbles, or the other half, it makes a difference in where the storm comes in. Once it was able to get overland in Florida, it doesn't wobble as much because it's got more friction. It's got stuff under it. It's got land under it to keep it steady, if you will. But then as soon as it got back out over the ocean, it started wobbling again, and it's still wobbling by technicality. I mean, it went more east than north, than east than north. So it wasn't just a due northeast line, and it continues that at this hour as it begins to turn into Charleston, because the cone here, if I play this forward just a little bit, the cone shows, this turn happening right now, and it shows a Category 1 hurricane coming into Charleston as we speak. Now, the reason why I'm concerned about Charleston is because the cone has the center coming in just north of Mount Pleasant, which means that Charleston would be in the eye wall, but never see the eye, which means they are in the eye wall for an extended period of time. It's always thought the eye of the storm is the worst part of the storm. Well, actually, it's the area immediately around the eye, because they don't get out of the eye wall. They just feel that for hours on end. And it's hours, because the storm is moving at 9 miles per hour. You can walk at 9 miles per hour fastly. If you're walking quickly, you're walking at 9, 10 miles an hour. So it is walking on shore. I guess that is one way to put it this morning. So let's see if we have the Charleston radar. Maybe, maybe not. We do. Okay, so we have the Charleston radar now. So let's do some investigating and see what's going on. If I flip this over into the velocity mode. Okay, so it's still loading in the velocity. We'll get that here in just a moment. But from the Jacksonville radar site, we can already see strong winds in here. So this right here, those are going to be some very strong winds. Let's see if we can get some values on that. This is going to be a little higher up. So there's 75, there's 67, 71. Oh, and that is the Charleston radar data coming in. So it is scanning in as we speak. And there we go. So there's the Charleston radar data. Already seeing, just look at this with the strong winds here. So if I flip this back over to here, right, we look and see where the heaviest rain is. This is going to be the eye wall right here. That looks like that is the eye, potentially, coming ashore. I don't have history, but yeah. So buckle up, Charleston. Here comes the heaviest stuff. Here comes a hurricane. Hurricane is moving into Charleston as we speak. Luckily, we're not going to see the type of damage that we saw in Fort Myers. This is a much weaker storm than what went through Fort Myers. We're talking about winds at 85 miles an hour here as opposed to 155 miles per hour. That is a significant difference, very significant difference. So good news there. 40 miles per hour is going to bring down a lot of pine cones. That is true. Kevin saying he's on the southern South Carolina coast, light rain and about a 20-mile-an-hour wind. I suspect the wind's probably a little stronger. No, we don't think the path of Ian is going to shift again. It is about to come on shore. We're locked and loaded here. Ian should significantly decrease in strength once it hits land again. Yeah, it's going to hit land and not go back over water. It's going to fall apart. Downtown Charleston is just drizzling right now. Yeah, the heaviest stuff is just offshore and it is coming on right now. How come it's only 45-mile-an-hour winds and still called a Cat 1? Well, it's at 85-mile-an-hour winds here. See 85 here? And that puts it above the 74-mile-per-hour threshold and below the Category 2 threshold. That makes it a Category 1. On the coast of Charleston right now, and it's nothing like y'all are making it seem. Well, just wait, because if you're on the coast of Charleston, you're right in this area right here, and here comes the heaviest stuff that is coming onshore as we speak. So you're about to see it. Augusta won't feel much. Well, Augusta's going to be feeling the wind. So if I pop on the tropical storm warnings here, we do have a tropical storm warning in Augusta for the threat of wind. There it is there. That means sustained winds over 40 miles per hour. Not wind gusts over 40 miles an hour, but sustained winds over 40 miles an hour. What else we got here? Still a 1? Yes, I'm near Aiken. What category is it? It is a 1, but in Aiken, you're going to feel tropical storm force conditions. My dad moved to the Outer Banks until '83, so the Outer Banks are in tropical storm warning. Winds. Yeah, so the winds in the storm are at 85, not 45. I apologize if I said 45. We might have picked up wind gusts of 45 at the moment, but the 85-mile-an-hour winds are about to move on shore with the eye wall. Waycross, Georgia, the wind is going to be moving out today, should be in the clear of the rain. Will Beaufort County be affected? Yes, we are looking at wind and rain through the day. Threat of tornadoes, we will see a threat of tornadoes in mainly North Carolina today. So if I pull this out and we look at the track, whoa, it's all over the place. If we look at the track and we draw this forward, the tornado threat is going to be to the right of it. So we're looking at a tornado threat in places like Wilmington, Fayetteville, Raleigh, as you get over towards Elizabeth City, the Outer Banks, including Hatteras as you get down towards Morehead City. Even Richmond, Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia, Virginia Beach, South Hill, Petersburg, that whole area on the right side of the storm will have the threat of tornadoes. Let's see, what else we got here? How is Savannah looking? Well, so the winds are beginning to shift in Savannah. Any surge we saw there is beginning to move out. The wind will be ending this afternoon as well. Pennsylvania will pick up some rain from this. Myrtle Beach will see some storm surge and some rain. Probably not hurricane force winds, but still tropical storm force winds there. Does it always go down when it hits land or stays the same? It will always weaken when it hits land because the main energy source for a hurricane is the warm water, which it's over right now, and that's how it strengthens. Once you hit land, it's got friction under the storm, and the different trees and buildings and everything screws up the winds at the lower levels, and that weakens the storm as a whole. Will it reach Charlotte, North Carolina? The rain and wind will. Charlotte, North Carolina is in a tropical storm warning. Did anyone die during the storm? Yes, we have several deaths down in Florida, and I believe one of the sheriffs down there, I believe it was Lee County, which is where Fort Myers and Sanibel Islands is, says that they believe they have deaths in the 100s. They said that yesterday. Yes, the death toll is still going up. Will Raleigh-Durham be affected? Yes, wind and rain in Raleigh-Durham. How much rain in Charleston? We could pick up several inches, upwards of 4 to 7 inches of rain potentially. Not thousands, hundreds. Hundreds. That is what the Lee County Sheriff said yesterday on a morning show here in the U.S. Do you think there will be major flooding in Charleston because of the hurricane? It's possible in downtown. We're getting a storm surge downtown. We're seeing water come over the battery. I don't know how far into Charleston that will go, but yes, flooding is a concern there in Charleston. Columbia is gusty and raining. Looking forward to a quick pass through, though. It is going to be moving quickly. That is the good news. This will be out of here tomorrow. Raleigh's getting drenched. How bad will North Carolina be? Okay, so yeah, we're looking at wind and rain there between Greensboro, Winston-Salem, over towards Elon, Raleigh-Durham. Wind and rain, gusts up to 50, 60 miles an hour there. I think we're good in Connecticut. Sitting third row back in Edisto Island, high winds and bands of rain, fingers crossed. Yep, and going through the brunt of it right now there. Mount Pleasant is starting to feel the winds. Mount Pleasant will be getting the eye wall here shortly. If I flip this back over, we can check out Mount Pleasant. I know Mount Pleasant's a very populated area. So Mount Pleasant is going to be right here. See if I can get it to pop up. There's Isle of Palms. There's Mount Pleasant here. So here's Mount Pleasant. There's Charleston there. You get up towards the Wando River up here. But, we played the loop on this. Mount Pleasant, you are only about 11 miles away from getting the brunt of the eye wall there. Charleston just a bit further. Let's see what else we got here. Will Los Angeles be affected? I think we know the answer to that. No, it will not. Will the name Ian get retired? It is possible, but that is a decision that humans make. There's no criteria necessarily to do it. What happens is the World Meteorological Organization gets together and a country can request that a name be retired, and then the entire organization votes on it. So the way for that to happen would be the director of the National Hurricane Center, or the acting director right now, would go to that meeting. That would happen early next year and request that the name Ian be retired, and then they would have to take a vote on it. What about Southwestern Virginia? Looking at some rain there in Southwestern Virginia. I said earlier I was concerned about some flooding up there because, you know, whenever we get storms up here, storms running into the Appalachian Mountains, they rain themselves out because they can't make it through, and that is a concern up there. Kiowa, Iowa is probably getting the worst that you're going to feel right now. Wind gusts upwards of 50 to 60 and some rain. What about Winston-Salem? Looking at some rain there as well. How far will the winds reach? It's raining now in Keysville, Virginia. Yeah, so the wind field on this is massive. I was showing this map earlier. This is the wind gust as of right now. So these gusts right here on the coast that you see, obviously I'm saying 85 miles an hour. That's going to be right in here, that 85 miles per hour. That's moving on shore as we speak. But the gusts are covering pretty much South Carolina, North Carolina, into Georgia here. I walked outside a few minutes ago and I saw stuff blowing across the parking lot. It was strong enough to move things yesterday. Caitlin said this morning that yesterday she was sitting there and she saw her grill go past on the patio. Had to go catch that real fast. It's a big wind field that we're dealing with. Cloudy here in Jersey from the hurricane. That it is. The clouds you're seeing in Jersey right now are from the hurricane. Savannah is coming to an end. Skip Tide says this is a fake report. Well, I think the people in South Carolina would beg to differ. Somerville, NC, feeling the rain and wind. Not sure how fast this is. It's moving at 9 miles an hour. What about Wilmington, North Carolina? In a tropical storm warning there, probably going to see gusts upwards of 40 to 50 at its peak. Luckily, the eye, or not luckily for everybody, but for Wilmington, the eye will be to the south of there, and actually to the south of Myrtle Beach. Charlotte should expect wind and rain, gusts upwards of 40 to 50 miles an hour. What is the current hurricane category? It is currently a Category 1. This is the hurricane here, and I know it looks lopsided. That's because Florida tore it apart. And it's currently being absorbed by another system, but a lot of the wind and rain is up here as opposed to down here. In fact, the south of the hurricane, it's kind of nice weather right now. What time is Asheville getting hit? Rain will start later on this afternoon and last through the overnight hours, and probably into tomorrow as well. Morehead City, kind of the same as Wilmington, gusts to 40 to 50, some wind and rain. Norfolk, Virginia, already seeing the rain. Yes, and Central Virginia seeing the rain as well in the Richmond area. So yeah, Richmond I know very well. We are seeing that rain come across into Chesterfield County now. It'll be in the city in just a moment. Eventually move up towards Charlottesville, Fredericksburg, that area. And that will be the case through the day today. Will Kentucky get anything? I don't think so. Storm surge in North Carolina, that is a possibility as well. Let's take a look at that. We have the latest update from the Hurricane Center that shows in North Carolina 2 to 4 feet. This is going to be from the Wilmington area up through the Outer Banks, 2 to 4 feet. The strongest is going to be right here in the Charleston area, potentially upwards of 6 to 7 feet. I'm thinking that says 4 to 6, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it just a bit more right there on the coastline, and still 3 to 5 feet there along the Georgia coast, as the center of the hurricane is still right about here. So we're still getting a wind coming in on the Atlantic, kind of like that. And as that wind comes in, that does push the water on shore there. Let's see what else we've got. Is this going to be bad in Winston-Salem? We could see strong wind gusts there as we move through the day there in Winston-Salem. Johnson County, Tennessee could see some rain from this. It's raining right now in Fayetteville, North Carolina, says Sherilyn. Boston, no concern. Thanks for the live chat. Absolutely. Glad to be doing it. How about Augusta, Georgia? Looking at the potential for tropical storm wind gusts in Augusta, Georgia. Augusta is in a tropical storm warning. This is going to be Augusta here, Augusta, Richmond County. You're right on the edge of the tropical storm warning, but still wind gusts going to be a concern nonetheless. Let's see. In Richmond right now, it's raining in Chesterfield County, cold at 57. Yeah, this is the coolest stuff we've had in a while. Let me pull up the Virginia radar. Yeah, so rain coming into Chesterfield County right now. It's coming into the city of Richmond as we speak. It's raining now at the airport there, moving up into Hanover County, up towards Ashland, over towards Short Pump here in the next little bit. And this is going to be a pretty good band. It's going to be pretty steady for a little bit, and then another lull, and then the rain will continue to build in Richmond as we head throughout the day. So if you're there in Chesterfield, there's Chester, Midlothian, right up there. There's the city of Richmond, obviously. The James River comes right through here, down south of Fort Union, down along Goochland County, and eventually down towards the Tidewater. Once you get down into Virginia, you know, here comes the steadier rain now in Virginia Beach, in Norfolk, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, Hampton Roads. This is going to move in and not relent for a long time. Just ask the folks down in the Outer Banks. It's been raining for several hours there now. Let's see. There is a small tornado chance for Brunswick County. How bad is it going to get in Winston-Salem? Some wind gusts upwards of 40 to 50. Rivers and Seabrook Island an issue, potentially. Could be dealing with the storm surge there. How bad will it be in Fayetteville? Rain and wind, gusts up to 50. How about in Columbia? Rain and wind, gusts up to 50. We just talked about Richmond. How's the upstate? Probably going to see some rain, but some weaker wind gusts. Winds there up to about 35. Lumberton, Hickory, again, wind and rain. That's going to be pretty much the story for North Carolina as it moves inland. Family on Pawleys Island, South Carolina, looks like close to a direct hit. It's going to be close to a direct hit, but it's not going to be exactly a direct hit on Pawleys Island because that is a little north of where the center of the storm is. If I drag this down, so Pawleys Island, let's see if I can get it to pop up. It's going to be right in here, right? Whoop. Hold on. The radar's glitching out on me. I got to start over. Okay. So Pawleys Island, right, it's going to be just off of Georgetown. Let's get Georgetown to pop up here. There it is. So Pawleys Island is right here. So if I put a little marker here and see if I can zoom it out. Right, so I'm going to circle that so we can keep it. I don't know if the circle is going to stay. It's not. Okay, so Pawleys Island is going to be right about there. Pawleys Island is that white circle. The center of the storm is here, and that is moving on shore like that. So not quite a direct hit on Pawleys Island, more of a direct hit on Onondaga, Mount Pleasant, really the northern end of Charleston County. I mean, Onondaga is going to be the closest city. Which the stronger winds are on that side. So for Pawleys Island, not necessarily looking at those 85-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Let's see, Raleigh, yes, wind and rain. Worries are tornadoes and flooding in Chesterfield County, Virginia. That would be the biggest threats there. St. Simons Island, coming to an end there in St. Simons because the center of the storm is moving towards the north, which means the winds are going to shift a little bit. Any surge we saw is beginning to move away. Sumter, South Carolina, looking at wind and rain today, gusts upwards of 40 to 50. Georgia, South Carolina border near Anderson, South Carolina. Some rain potentially. It's possible you make it through the storm staying completely dry, but some rain potentially, gusts 20, 25 there. Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania, probably going to see some rain from this. So the cold front saved Middle Georgia from the hurricane and or the storm. Well, not necessarily the cold front itself, but the system that was steering the cold front was able to pull this a little further east, which was good for us. Myrtle Beach in this. Yep, Myrtle Beach is in a hurricane warning. Dorchester County should expect tropical storm force conditions, sustained winds of 40 miles an hour. The surfing weather is awesome, says Jet. Well, not really. I wouldn't want to be surfing that. Eastern Kentucky, I think we're good there. Can you talk about Winston-Salem? Yeah, Winston-Salem in a tropical storm warning. We're looking at wind and rain there now. Here's Winston-Salem up here. There's Winston-Salem there. Forsyth County, I know it's in Forsyth County because I'm from Forsyth County, Georgia. It's the only other Forsyth County in the country. So you got that first band through Winston-Salem, and then the steadier stuff will build in this afternoon. Let's see what else we got here. Is Houston in danger of sunny skies today? Absolutely. Houston is in extreme danger of sunny skies today, I would say. How does Chesapeake Bay look in the mix? Well, I think no surge concerned in Chesapeake Bay, but still rain in and around Hampton Roads and up towards the north. Surfside Beach and the New Pier, it's going to be tested. It's going to be tested. In East SC now near Florence, nothing but a small rainstorm at the moment. Yep, the winds are going to pick up as the storm comes ashore. So you're talking about Florence over here. You just saw the nice stuff. Here comes the heavy stuff. That's going to be coming ashore in the next little bit. Or it's already onshore. That's going to be coming through Florence in the next little bit. Rainy and windy in Bishopville, South Carolina. Rain in Asheville tomorrow. Fayetteville going to see some wind and rain today. There's Fayetteville up here. Fayetteville's wind is not going to be too bad, though. What about Georgia? Johns Creek, that's where I'm from. No concerns there. Just some rain, or just some wind. Excuse me, no rain. 20-mile-an-hour winds. Clinton, South Carolina, maybe some rain, but not a lot. Who's going to get the worst of it? Charleston and Mount Pleasant. Charleston and Mount Pleasant are going to get the worst of it. Charlotte, yep, it's going to get, I don't know if worse is the better word, it's just going to become steadier. It's more of a rain concern for Charlotte. Seneca, South Carolina will probably get some rain from this. Winds in Winston-Salem, gusts to about 45, 50. It's going to blow some stuff around, but not like what they're going to see on the coast. Summerville, South Carolina, checking in, lots of wind and rain. When will it get to Raleigh? The winds will pick up later this evening in Raleigh. Let's see what else we got here. Mom is in Beaufort. She will be okay. Travel impacts for the morning. Well, James, it depends where you're asking about. I'm talking about a large area here. Yeah, we could see travel impacts in the morning in North Carolina across the entire state. Hear more about Savannah. The event's coming to an end in Savannah. The rain is moving out, just some remaining wind, and that's about it. When will the storm be over in Cottageville, South Carolina? Later this afternoon, it'll be over in Cottageville, South Carolina. Predictions where Ian makes landfall north, closer to Myrtle Beach. No, I'm thinking south of Georgetown. Between Charleston and Georgetown is the plan. Live in Atlantic Beach. Rain and wind is picking up. Where's the eye right now? The eye is where you see behind me, right in there. So the heaviest storms just off the coast from Charleston. The eye is the center of the storm right there, and that is what's moving on shore. And Columbia. So last one, Columbia, South Carolina, and then we'll begin to sign off here. Wind and rain has begun, but the heavier stuff is yet to come. We will see gusts upwards of 40 to 50 miles an hour there in Lexington County, and then the storm will begin to push away later on tonight. So, 95 is not closed in South Carolina. So, okay. I've got to begin signing off here because I can't stay on forever. But so here's the path of the storm. It's moving towards the north. It is going to move to the east of Charleston, it looks like, which brings the eye wall through Charleston. Not a great situation there. And then lift up into the Appalachian Mountains, causing a flood threat up there in Virginia and North Carolina with the rain down there. So something to keep an eye on here in the hours and days ahead. Otherwise, that is going to be about it for Ian. And after all of this, after it made its way here through the Caribbean, north of Aruba, became a tropical storm, became a hurricane before it hit Cuba, was a major hurricane, made that right turn into Florida. Now it's doing that little wobble up into Charleston. After tomorrow, we will begin to write Ian off and take a deep breath because, man, has this been an event. But so I will leave you with this. This is the radar loop of what's going on right now here in the United States. Again, watching for the eye of Ian to come ashore somewhere close to Charleston here in the next little bit. And as we head into the afternoon hours, be mindful of the wind, be mindful of the rain. We do have tropical storm warnings in effect for a large part of the Carolinas, even into Georgia at this hour. Wind and rain now moving into Virginia as well. Steadier rain pushing into the Hampton Roads area. Light rain pushing into the Richmond area. That will be in Charlottesville before the day is over. And then, of course, we'll be watching for the eye to come ashore. Sometime after 2 o'clock this afternoon is the thinking on that. So thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you have a great and safe Friday here as we head into the weekend.